I discovered Bitcoin in 2012 with a few friends because they wanted to order weed online. We had to pay in Bitcoin. My friend was like, yeah, but you could buy a miner and mine some Bitcoin.
Weed for free, basically.
Weed for free.
Beautiful.
How much does that cost? That's about $2,000. I'm like, wow. That's too expensive. Let's just buy 0.001 Bitcoin, order the weed, and be done with it. And then I never thought about crypto again.
Seb is the co-founder and CEO of Sophon, a consumer crypto platform that rewards users for the data they generate.
Sophon raised $60 million in the largest blockchain node sale to date.
We've been building too many things for very crypto-native users. People don't have a problem accepting technology in their lives, but somehow the amount of users and the amount of innovation in crypto is not growing. So the problem must be from the way crypto is presented then, not the other way around.
How do you change the mind of these customers?
If you give people an opportunity to continue doing what they're already doing, but reaping rewards from it, they will try.
But they don't believe it in the beginning.
Okay, listen. WhoPlaysChess.com orders from Lululemon and buys tickets to Taylor Swift concert. Oh, it's your sister. She sounds like the perfect person for this campaign that we're doing. Instead of paying the influencer, I can drive rewards to your sister. I was diagnosed with ADHD as a child. I was just very observant. I think it's a pretty good skill trying to build a consumer-focused product because you need to think, how do people use technology today?
Sophon was the largest node sale ever done by a blockchain, $60 million, just a few months after starting the project.
Yeah.
How did you pull this off? 69% of the people who watch this podcast have not subscribed. If you enjoy this show, if it provides value to you in one way, shape, or form, can I please ask you a little favor? Can you click that subscribe button, give this video a like, and leave a comment down below? It helps this show more than you can imagine. My goal is to bring the absolute biggest and brightest people on this channel, and the best way to get there is to have all of us rally together and build the When Shift Happens family. Thank you. This conversation is supported by Jupiter, the most used decentralized trading platform on Solana and the largest DAO in the world. Bitwise Asset Management, the crypto specialist asset manager with more than $10 billion in client assets and more than 30 crypto solutions across ETFs, index funds, alpha strategies, staking, and more. 3. A scalable layer 1 blockchain that's fast, secure, and affordable, built by previous Facebook developers, and that delivers the benefits of Web3 with the ease of Web2. And Mental, an Ethereum layer 2 that built two products I particularly like. FBTC, which enables you to borrow and lend Bitcoin in DeFi, and METH or METH, one of the largest ETH liquid staking protocols in crypto. To support this show, please check the sponsors links in the description down below.
So we're live.
We're live.
Cool.
You wanted to grab something on the table?
Yeah, I was looking at this when I sat down.
What are you looking at?
My face, because it's so shiny.
It's actually gold.
You can see yourself.
It's actually gold.
Really?
Yeah.
Got gold plate.
Yeah. I mean, I've been told.
Sample only, so I can't memorize your card details. But this is cool. Tell me about it. What is this?
This is a
Solana card.
Yeah, this is a Kast card. So Kast is one of the sponsors.
Okay.
Very simple app tool that I use every day to spend your stablecoins. So you don't have to off-ramp anymore, right? You just spend your stablecoins with Apple Pay. So actually, there's a physical card, but in today's day and age, we don't really use physical card anymore. I mean, depending where you are, obviously, you just like connect it to your...
everybody has Apple Pay.
To your Apple Pay or to your Google Pay, and then tack, boom, stablecoin spent, works.
Have you heard of Holyheld?
No.
That's the European version of this, I guess.
Okay.
But it's a non-custodial thing. It's pretty cool because with them, you connect your own wallet and then it just debits from the wallet automatically. It's not going through. So I wonder how this one works, actually.
So this one is an app, right? Yeah. I think it's not non-custodial yet, but the goal is definitely to become.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's super simple. The only thing you can do is spend your stablecoins. Like, it's so simple, right? But we talked already about all these useless things in crypto, right? And that the simpler, the better. I mean, stablecoin definitely one of the killer apps. For sure. And then it's how do you make, I mean, we're going to talk about consumer crypto, right? How do you make all this shit easier, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, actually, the founder, Ragulan, he was the CEO of Circle APAC. So he was the CEO of Circle Asia Pacific.
Yeah.
And they're building Revolut on chain.
Yeah.
And you love Revolut.
I do. I think Revolut is one of the greatest... First of all, it's one of the best products that's come out of Europe, right? There's not that many big tech unicorns that come out of Europe.
Yeah.
But I think the way that they approach products is amazing, right? It's a product-first company. They didn't really reinvent the wheel. It's a bank. right? It's a banking license in the back. Yeah, they have great FX swaps, things like this. It works a little bit like Wise does, but they just presented it in the way that works for people our age, right? They don't have any branches anywhere, but they have 70 million customers. And the CEO just operates as well in this really cool way that I try to adopt too, where he tries to create arenas for his teams to experiment in. So actually, Revolut is a massive company now, but he has these little teams of like 5, 10, 20 people, and they run experiments. And he gives them a bit of budget. He gives them 6 months, 9 months, and he tells them, you guys can now experiment with this new idea. And he says most of them fail, but every now and then, one of these experiments actually really succeeds, and then it becomes a core part of their product. So like most recently, I'm like shilling Revolut instead of Sophon now. But most recently, you can they integrated eSIMs. So you can like buy eSIMs and integrate them directly via the Revolut app. And that's one of the internal experiments that they did. And they're doing more and more of these things to fix consumer banking. And I think, it's like the gold standard for me when it comes to product.
I know about the eSIM one. I mean, I use eSIM all the time, right? I use this app called Eralo.
Yeah, actually I do too. But now I use Revolut.
Revolut, I wish I could use, but they banned me in 2019 forever. So I can never use it again. Because I was sending money from Revolut to Coinbase to buy Bitcoin. Yeah. And they didn't like it.
But
now they're selling crypto.
They're super pro crypto.
But I'm still banned.
Let me see if I can talk to someone and unban you. Remove the shadow.
As the biggest PR guy, maybe you have a chance.
Yeah. But this is cool, and it works. It's like based on the Solana network, or
so there's multiple network: Polygon, Ethereum, Solana.
Okay, cool. Got to put Sophon on there. Then.
USDT, USDC. Yeah. Can put you in touch. Absolutely.
Let's do it.
It's so good. It's so simple, and for me, it's life-changing because all this off-ramping and it's just fucking nightmare.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the first best use case for crypto is payments, right? And you can solve so many things like this. So having these cards now and being able to spend, like you said, Apple Pay every day, that's great.
Absolutely. If you had to explain what it is you do and why you do it.
What do I do? And what do I do? Oh, to my mom.
What would you say?
That's funny. My mom is very encouraging. She's like, I'm so happy for you. I don't really think she knows exactly what I do. But when I tell her what I do, I said, hey, Mom, I've been working in crypto for a long time. And the products, the way we present crypto, it's for crypto native people. And we've kind of onboarded all those crypto native people. We need to rethink the way we present products, UI, UX, design, so that the next wave of people like my mom, or maybe not my mom, but like my sister, my wife, would start using crypto, right? And that means being super empathetic and thinking, observing how do everyday people use tech. Because everybody between the ages of like 12 and 50 uses tech, right? But they're not using crypto. So it's a crypto problem. It's not a tech adoption problem.
What does using crypto mean?
Well, that's the thing. You can redefine what using crypto means. Right now, people, what do they use crypto for? They use it for payments, if you're getting involved. And I think a lot of people use it for speculation. And here, we can talk about it now or a bit later, but I think a lot of crypto recently has been built around PvP ecosystems, where you must lose for me to win, around a speculative element. And that kind of slows down the rate of adoption because people come, they get PvP'd and they lose. They're not very likely to come back. And so I thought it's very important to build PvE ecosystems where actually we're growing the pie and we can build paradigms where actually everybody's winning based on what they put in, based on their merit, based on their data. We'll talk about this later. So I think that's a better way to grow what people can do with crypto.
Dear When Shift Happens family, the following message is probably the single most important thing you should take away from today's podcast. If you're serious about your crypto investing journey, please take some time to learn how to self-custody your assets to make sure that nobody can take your coins away.
ever. If you don't learn how to be your own bank, it is very likely that one day you will lose all your hard-earned crypto. The safest way to hold your crypto is in a cold storage that we also call hardware wallets. Hardware wallets are not complicated and they give you peace of mind. I personally use a hardware wallet called Trezor. It is open source, very easy to use, and the first hardware wallet created ever. As we like to say it in crypto, not your keys, not your coin. You can order your Trezor wallet with a 10% discount by following the link in the description down below and by using the promo code WSH10. And now, back to the episode.
Yeah, there's an entire chapter on that.
Yes.
Who are you?
I'm Sebastien. I'm just a guy who likes crypto, who likes risk, who likes adventure. I used to work in finance. I studied philosophy, so I had a pretty random background, I guess. And I got into crypto in 2020. I wanted to do something that was risk-on career-wise, something that was cutting edge, something that would be an adventure, and make my place in this industry.
Why do you think you like risk so much?
Why do I like risk so much? I was my dad's a trader. He was an oil trader, and a big poker player too. So he raised me around risk. I started playing poker when I was a kid. I play a lot of games, backgammon, gin, all of these things. I like to understand how you work with risk to gain an advantage, let's say. So from a young age, I was very used to this. And I think once you get used to risk, there's a difference between risk and chance, right? Chance is just you're flipping a coin. Risk is something that you can measure. And it's something that most people are not comfortable with. But once you get comfortable with it, it's exciting, right? And you can use it to your advantage. Also, I was quite hyperactive as a kid. And I think hyperactive kids, they like pushing the limit. They like speed, risk, these kinds of things. So I've always kind of been attracted to this. It's exciting.
You told me you're a very observant person.
Yeah, I think so.
Why?
Why am I observant? I don't really know. Like I said, I was quite active as a kid. I was diagnosed with ADHD as a child. I think one of the symptoms of that is it can manifest itself in many different ways, but I was just very observant. Observant visually around things around me. I have very good visual memory of stuff. I can remember visual things, numbers, things like this quite well. And then it was always interesting for me to sort of study, how people behave around me, social interactions, that sort of thing. It's just, that's the way that I think. And I think it's a pretty good skill, actually, when you're in the position that I'm in, trying to build a consumer-focused product, because you need to think, how do people use technology today? Right? And I think a lot of crypto founders build for other crypto people. They think about who the crypto user is. But in my opinion, if we're going to graduate from this and really grow the space we're in, we have to think, how's Joe Blow using tech, and how can we get him to use crypto?
So you're saying that being diagnosed with ADHD, there's a lot of people joking around today, this is my ADHD, etc., right? Yeah. You've been actually medically diagnosed with ADHD. You're saying that it has a lot of advantages, right? You're saying that basically, from what I understand, your brain works a lot, and it's not only distractive, but also it enables you to remember stuff or look at people and try to understand what's going on with them.
Yeah. It's not something that I would really talk about so much, but people who have ADHD, or something like this, like ADHD, it's a little bit like if you had 3 or 4 TVs on at the same time in your head, and there's always something going on, and you can kind of try and pay attention to these 4 TVs at the same time, but you get distracted, but you're always paying attention about something in the corner of your eye, let's say. Yeah, I think that you can cry about it and be like, oh yeah, I get distracted easily, and like it's hard for me at school, whatever. Actually, school was pretty easy for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How is that possible? Because the classic thing we hear is, I have too much ADHD, cannot concentrate, don't do good grades.
I was pretty good at school, actually. So I got pretty good grades. And I was a problem when people, when my teachers and stuff realized that I had ADHD.
How did they realize that?
Well, because I would finish work early. I would always like finish tasks in school before everybody else. And then what does a kid do? He just get bored. So I would stand up and I would walk around the class. I would go talk to other kids. And they called my parents and said, like, your son's brilliant and everything, but like he's massively disrupting class because all the other kids are trying to finish their work. And Seb is walking around and like helping a kid here or like looking out the window or running around. And they're like, we got to calm this kid down. Like, I can't run the rest of the class if he's like this. And that's when, they're like, let's try to figure out what's going on. And that's when I was diagnosed.
To do the same at work today. Hey, colleagues, I'm done with my... I mean, there's no such thing as being done as a founder.
No, unfortunately.
So that's the advantage for the colleagues, I think.
Yeah. I think being a founder is actually, it's being a founder or being the CEO, I guess, it's a pretty unique thing because you sit so far above everyone else in the company and you need to look and understand what every single team is doing, what every single person in that team is doing. It's like a chef in the kitchen, you know? If you've been to a Michelin star kitchen or something, the chef actually never touches the food. He's just there in his nice white jacket and he's screaming at the orders and there's 100 people maybe working, cooking different things and he's observing that the whole operation works well. And I think, being quite active is a good way to pay attention to everything in the company at the same time, you know, and get, my goal is to get my overall company to build something incredible. But, it's a sum of its parts, right? It's right now, Sophon is 25 people and it's 25 people working on individual things together as a team to make one incredible product. And it's my job to sort of oversee everything and guide them in the direction that I think is the right one.
You said before some people cry and say, oh, I have ADHD, I'm fucked, right? You see the positive. What's one of the most positive skills or strengths that ADHD helped you develop?
Probably being very curious. And when you're curious and you kind of start to get obsessed by something, you enter a state of flow, right? And that's ideal, right? And anybody who's been, I think most people have been in a state of flow, whether it's in sports or creativity or professionally playing an instrument, maybe whatever. But when you can kind of channel and get into that state, you're unstoppable, right?
Absolutely. Being in the flow. Which means in our industry, not being bothered by markets going up and down and whatever, okay, it's going up like crazy today, not giving a fuck, in the flow, locked in. Yeah. We're doing our thing.
Exactly.
We know it's the right thing.
Exactly.
You're Swiss?
I am Swiss.
We're recording this conversation in Switzerland?
The best country in the world.
Best country in the world. Why?
I was laughing about this because I had dinner with a friend last night. And we were laughing about why he was giving me this whole speech about why Switzerland is the best country in the world. Because he was like, I travel and everything, but every time I come back here. So I'll tell you a funny story. Last week on Monday, there's this thing called zkTLS. And it's once a year. In Zurich, they do this because that's where we're recording right now. And it's basically this massive parade in the city center. And they have this massive wooden snowman that you burn. And if it burns quickly or slowly, it's meant to predict whether you're going to have a good summer or not. It burned very quickly this year, which means that we should have a good summer. And it's a big parade, right? Everybody goes outside, celebrates. They will kind of like their folkloric outfits. And my friend went, and the Swiss president was just walking down the street, drinking a glass of wine. And he was like, dude, what other country, maybe Singapore is the only other country I can think of, where you can have a massive social gathering and just the president of the country is casually walking down the street, sipping a glass of wine, no bodyguards, no security, nothing, kind of like literally high-fiving people, and everybody's in a good mood and vibing, right? That's incredible. So that was a funny an anecdote that we came up with for why we love it here.
He was not bothered by people like for pictures and everything.
No, there were some people just
if you think, I don't think it will happen in Singapore because in Singapore people would be maybe too much fans, right?
Yeah.
Like the prime minister. But it reminds me of the Roger story, right? It was the same. I used to play a lot of tennis and I would go to this tournaments, and like, you would see Roger, but people just respect. There is a respect in Switzerland that people are like, I don't want to bother this person, even if it's like mega famous and I'm mega fan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let the dude
That's true.
just walk around.
So polite.
And almost too much, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's so true. I mean, there was this thing like a few years ago, back then, because we rotate presidents every year in Switzerland. It was a female president. I think it was Karin Keller-Sutter. She picked up a hitchhiker in her Mini Cooper. She was driving home in Bern, and there was a hitchhiker, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll just take you home." Who does that? You know, what country does this? This is amazing.
Crypto is very hostile.
Yeah.
You're very Swiss. I'm Swiss too. Very polite. You don't want to bother people.
Yeah.
How much of a disadvantage is that at the beginning?
It is a disadvantage, I would say, because at the beginning, when you start in this space, like I did, or I mean, that's actually one thing tangentially that I think is great about crypto. Everybody who's here is here because they want to, based on their own merit. No one's like, dad owns a company or uncle works somewhere where they're like, oh yeah, you should just hire my son or something, right? Like everybody who's here, it's because they want to, and it's because they earned their spot. So naturally, when you start your career or your work in this space, you don't know anybody. And how do you fix that? You go to conferences and you socialize. And for Swiss people who are a bit, a little bit tight, sometimes I think it's a little bit difficult to, you got to come in the room and say hi to everybody, build your network, make friends. But over time, it fixes itself. But yeah, at the beginning, that's like everybody else, I had to do that.
I spent a lot of time in Asia, obviously, and then in the US.
Yeah.
And even for podcast guests, right? I'm like, they're the best podcast guests, the US,
the
American ones, because I'm the best, blah, blah, blah. It's fucking good for the, right? They think they're the best. And like they manifest themselves into becoming the best like that. And then you're the Swiss guy, or even in Asia, like, for example, I had once Meow from Jupiter and Lucanets on the same podcast. And I was kind of like doing the moderation. And Meow was like, man, I don't know how you do that, Luca. Like, you just like, yeah, we're the best. Like, and then you have very different cultures and, like the very kind of Asian, we show, but we don't say much. Mm-hmm. And then you have the American one, which is, we say a lot. And we also do, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully. But very different cultures, of course.
Different styles, for sure. But there's a lot of value in manifesting your own success.
For sure. Especially when there is a token involved, actually. Yeah. The other day I was recording with Gavin Wood from Ethereum and Polkadot, and one of the big things they have there is he says he's a genius. He built the EVM, he built Solidity, all this stuff, but he's like, I don't want to talk about the token and I don't want to do any marketing. This is not my thing, right?
Yeah.
And they have this kind of internal, I would say, tensions, or they're not really sure, like, who is doing that? Who is doing the marketing? Usually it's the founder, right, who's going to come and say, like...
Founder-led marketing.
Yeah, and he's not doing that, so like...
There's different projects. It works differently, right? Like, some projects do their marketing via their product market fit. Some projects do their marketing via their token, right? Like having a nice green chart is a great form of marketing. Some projects, it's the founder who's very loud or very charismatic.
What's the Swiss guy in you gonna do when you launch a token?
I think already I've become much more public than I used to be. So I wasn't doxxed before. Not because I have anything to hide or like this, but I just like my private life, and so nobody knew what I looked like, things like this. But I thought, okay, now that I founded a company, I should I should be on podcasts. I should show my face, that sort of thing, which I do now a lot more, and I'm more comfortable doing it. But I'm not gonna change who I am or my style, right? So I think people will, if they like me, they like me. If they don't, they don't. I'm happy to come and talk about Sophon, talk about myself, but I'm not going to change who I am. I am what I am, and I think Sophon will do the talking for sure.
You said before, everyone works in crypto by choice.
Yeah.
Right. And everyone who is there deserved their spot.
Well, yeah, in the sense that like if you're working somewhere, if you're achieving something good, it's meritocratic for sure.
You lead a team of 25 people.
Yeah.
Right. Taking this into consideration, what's the best way for a person to join the industry and get hired if business schools, CVs and grades don't matter at all?
You just have to be you have to be interested in the space. It'll come naturally. You know, when I finished university, you meet with these kind of work advisors, that sort of thing, and they tell you, oh yeah, you should be a consultant, or you should go work in a bank, and you're, oh, I want to be a consultant. That sounds good. I didn't know what the fuck a consultant does, but I was like, oh, that's not BCG. That sounds nice. That's gonna be for me.
Did you want to do BCG?
Yeah, I interviewed there, but I get there and I'm like, I don't even know what these guys do or like how this works. But that's how those people coming out of school go, right? For crypto, you just have to be interested. Right. So that's what I mean. It's meritocratic because everybody who's here started because they were interested. There are some books about crypto that are actually pretty well written that people can read to learn things, but just spend time on crypto Twitter, follow some people, read threads, and I think the best way to start is just to try and get a job at a nascent protocol. It depends what you want to do, right? BD, marketing, whether you're an engineer, but there's a lot of options. There's a lot of things to do.
How did you get so fascinated by the world of the blockchain and cryptocurrencies? Tell us everything.
Well, I discovered Bitcoin in, because I'm gonna like self-own myself, but I discovered Bitcoin in 2012 with a few friends because they wanted to order weed online. And we had to pay in Bitcoin. And my friend was like, yeah, but you know this thing, like we could buy a miner and mine some Bitcoin. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a good idea.
So weed for free, basically.
Yeah, weed for free.
Beautiful.
Great. And we're like, well, how much does that cost? And he was like, it's about $2,000. I'm like, oh, that's too expensive, man. Fuck that. Let's just buy a 0.001 Bitcoin, order the weed and be done with it. And then I never thought about crypto again. So that was the first time I heard about crypto. And then when I finally got interested in it properly was in 2017. So 2017, that was my first cycle, let's say, where I bought Ripple for the first time, like a good normie. And I was working in a bank in Zurich. I was working for a large private bank in a team that helps the bank choose the asset managers that they work with. So we were doing like a very deep analysis on equity funds, fixed income funds, hedge funds, etc. And then that cycle happened. And all of a sudden clients were calling the bank and saying, hey, I want to buy Bitcoin or I want to buy Ethereum. And back then, there's no ETFs, right? There's nothing. So they would call my team and they would say, okay, well, how do we do this? And I was the youngest guy on the team. I was interested in crypto. So they would say, okay, well, Seb, can you figure out like how we can get crypto exposure in a banking compliant way for clients? So I said, okay, fine. Like I want to do this. So I started meeting all the nascent asset managers back then. So there was Moon, which is now called 21 Shares, Grayscale, and a couple other ones, some hedge funds as well that don't exist anymore because they probably blew up.
This became your full-time job?
That became, I sort of like pivoted out of doing the equity stuff into just becoming an expert in the crypto asset management space, which is very small. Back then it was ETPs, it was exchange traded products. And so I did that for a bit. And then I went to a conference in St. Moritz called CFC, the Crypto Finance Conference, which was a pretty big deal because really like they only invite, it's only founders, first of all. So there's no BD people, nothing. It's just founders and pretty powerful people in the space, right? And I got my bank to send me so I could be the guy from the bank going. And I met a lot of people at this conference and then I thought, holy shit, this is so cool. It looks like such a fun space to actually be working in. The bank is the wrong place for me to have exposure to this professionally. So I quit to dedicate myself to crypto full time.
You quit right before COVID crisis?
Right before. So I quit. I had a 3-month notice period. So I quit in December 2019. And my last day of work was March 1st, 2020.
Just as a reminder, the COVID crash, right? stock market and then crypto was crazy. It was around 12 or 13 or 14th of March, right? So like 2 weeks later, you quit your traditional finance job on the 1st of March, 2020. Was this bad luck or a blessing in disguise?
I think it's a blessing in disguise. I think a lot of things in my life have happened through fate or through having this kind of like journey that I'm meant to be on or this path. But yeah, the timing was, again, it's like the ADHD stuff. You can look at it and say timing is really bad or timing is really good. I'm a very positive person, the glass is full person. So I look at it as this is great timing, you know?
Actually, when shit hits the fan, it's always the best timing.
Yeah.
It is, because it flushes all the shit and then you're there and you can kind of prove yourself. And we started this podcast. I mean, I was doing stuff before that, but like very regularly in studio every week in December 2022, the month after FTX.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the moment because everyone is gone, right?
Yeah.
That's how I'll get the big people on, because who wants to talk to them now? No one. So they'll tell yes, right? And absolutely. The worst timing is always the best timing.
Yeah.
If you're still alive.
It was crazy. I mean, I remember ETH was at $80. Back then I had taken my savings and I bought, I had plowed the savings I had into ETH at $100, you know, which is crazy now that you think about it. But I just thought, okay, this has gone down so much. You know, now's a great time to get in and let's see what happens.
I sold all my stocks that were down 30% to buy ETH at 110.
When did you get into crypto?
So late 2018, early 19.
Yeah.
So I kind of like caught the bottom. I sold the data analytics company that I built in London for 3 years. Then I read the Bitcoin Standard. And early 2019, I was like, I need to put all the money from these business sales into Bitcoin and ETH. And Bitcoin was like 3.5K. It was complete luck, right? Yeah. But then I wanted more Bitcoin.
But was it luck?
I mean, conviction, but also luck of like timing, right? Then it was luck, but you're never lucky forever, right? I wanted more Bitcoin, but I didn't have more cash. Yeah. So I discovered BitMEX and leverage trading, where you could use Bitcoin as a collateral. Yeah. And so I was like, this is amazing. I can print Bitcoin, right? Yeah. Like out of thin air. Beautiful. And I was just like 2x leverage, right? Yeah. But in March crash, COVID crash, even 2x leverage gone. Yeah. So I had 80% of my net worth or 70% in crypto. I lost everything. But I had so much conviction when ETH was at $100 that I sold all my stocks, my remaining 30% of my basically money that I had from my business sale. Yeah. All the rest was gone, right? And I remember I was there like sweating like crazy that morning where I got liquidated. But I was like, in the next few days, I need to send all the freaking money to Coinbase to buy ETH because this shit is going to go back up, and it's going to go back up to $1,400, right? The previous all-time high. And
it's crazy. I mean, my friend's dad, he says he's a big Bitcoin bull, and he says you buy it at the price you deserve.
Yeah, everyone says that actually.
You buy Bitcoin at the price you deserve to buy it at.
Yeah.
You know, so you were early. You had conviction, and you bought it at a great price because you deserved it.
Yeah, but I lost a lot of it afterwards in Luna.
That's part of the everyone who's been in this space long enough and who's really been in this space, not just been on the side watching, but who's been active. You blow up once, or you take a punch once. You know.
When was that for you?
When was this for me?
And what was it?
Last year when I was in Dubai. The market crashed. And if you remember when Solana, everything took a big dump last year during Token 2049 in Dubai. And I was exposed then. But then as a trader now, I don't perp trade that much. I think it just brings too much stress, and it can kind of take your attention away from things. Luckily, I never got I got rugged on some stuff, but I never got like scammed or fished or things like this. But those are the lessons you learn, you know.
The leverage trading lesson, I think everyone needs to learn.
Everybody learns it, you know. I think it's just a good life lesson in general.
Yeah.
You know, because numbers go up very fast, right? And I think it was you did the podcast recently with Raul.
Yeah.
And I was watching it on the train, and I think it's on that one where he says that there's this moment where you start thinking about how much money have I made, but if it just 2x's, I can make so much more. And in the podcast, he says, that's the moment that you start to take money off the table and just like buy a house, like buy something that people can't take away from you. And I think he's clearly he's been through it, right? So he knows like that's what you're meant to do.
The meme is, I just need another 2x.
Yeah. Just
You perpetually need just another 2x, right?
One time, baby. Just another 2x.
You joined Matter Labs, a company that raised $250 million.
That's right. Big number.
And that is behind the zkSync, the Ethereum layer 2.
Yeah.
When you left the company, you were the head of DeFi.
That's right.
How is that possible if you were in your, I would say, late 20s probably, and not a nerd?
I don't think you need to be a nerd to be good at DeFi. I think you do need to be curious. You need to use stuff. I'd used everything, figure out how it works. And then it was about building ecosystems out and having a really good network, which is what I had at the time, right? Working at Matter Labs, zkSync was had a lot of mind share, was very hyped in 2023 and 2022. And I used that as a calling card, right? Like every project in the space, if zkSync came knocking, they would answer. Because like you said, they had raised a humongous amount of money. They were going to fix scaling in Ethereum. And that allowed me to build a really good Rolodex.
What's the biggest problem you've identified while working at Matter Labs?
Their problem, you mean? Like problem that they would have?
Give me two problems. One of their problem and one of the industry's problems.
So Matter Labs is it's a great company. It's an engineering company. And they have incredible engineers. And they built very, very, very complicated technology that is meant to just be used in a very simple manner, right? I think they did an incredible job at this. But then there's a whole other part, there's a crypto part, there's a token, things like this, that it's almost like a second company, right? And managing those two things those are two separate businesses almost. And I think that's where, with the airdrop that they did last year, that's where they had some difficulties. And it's tough. It's a very difficult thing to go through as a founder, and I think Alex handled it well, but it's a tough one. Looking at the space now for L2s, the main problem that I've identified, and the reason that I think Sophon started to exist, is that a lot of these L2s or these ecosystems, there are engineering companies that built them. And they build very good technology, but then the overall product experience is also built by an engineering company. And typically that's not really what works. You need to have it built by very product-focused people, UI-focused people, or consumer-focused people, right? You wouldn't ask Amazon or like AWS to build a Netflix for you. You wouldn't expect them to do this, right? Those are two separate entities. And so I think stick to, building really, really good tech, and then find people who are very business-oriented or product-oriented to build the best products, the best businesses on top of this good tech.
You're a business guy, not a nerd.
I guess I am. What is a nerd? How do you define a nerd? 'Cause my wife calls me a nerd. I don't really think I'm a nerd, but I don't know what a nerd is.
I think a lot of women actually find nerds very attractive. So
that's why she's down.
that's why she like.
Yeah.
You're a nerd. Even if you're not or you don't want to be, you're a nerd.
Yeah. I mean, I can explain to you how zk architecture and stuff works. It's pretty nerdy, I guess.
Okay.
Right? But I do think, when you say I'm a business guy, I think that's what interests me. I like building stuff, and my goal was to build a company that used the tech that I think understood pretty well for a non-engineer. And on the other side, I could be very observant and looking at how non-crypto people or non-crypto users use technology. What are their habits? How do they interact with products? And how could we fork that into a crypto setting and create something new? My goal is not to do the next iteration of something. My goal is to create a new paradigm. Like that's the mission, right? If I can create a new greenfield in the crypto space that gives birth to new concepts, new products, then I've succeeded.
You said in crypto we don't have a tech problem, we have a crypto problem.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So I said that because if we dial it back, everybody between the ages of 12 and 50 is using tech, right? And they use it more and more. You do everything on your phone today, or like every aspect of your life is activated with technology. So people don't have a problem accepting technology in their lives and accepting innovation. We know this, but somehow the amount of users and the amount of innovation in crypto is not growing. So the problem must be from the way crypto is presented then, right? Not the other way around. And so that's where I think there's a problem in crypto, where we've been building too many things for very crypto native users, which for the crypto native users, like take Hyperliquid, for instance. That's the best, or one of the best products that's built for a very crypto native user, right? For speculators, for traders, they nailed it. And so within the addressable market that they have for their product, they found perfect product market fit and they're killing it. But at the other end of the spectrum, and that's the end of the spectrum that Sophon is interested in, that I'm interested in, we're looking at, well, who are the people who are not using crypto and how are they using other kinds of tech products? Or what are the things that they're doing on a regular basis? And how can we use crypto in those habits? And that's what I'm trying to solve for.
Hyperliquid and Jupiter, you mentioned Hyperliquid, right? Great
Yeah.
example of knowing who you're building for.
Yeah.
What did Jeff from Hyperliquid and Meow from Jupiter do right that most other crypto projects are doing wrong?
I think they built, they just knew exactly who their users were, and they built a very good product, a very good UX, UI. Jupiter is very pleasant to use, right? It just works well. It does what you need it to do. It's not trying to do more, not trying to do less. It just works, and people like that. And again, this kind of goes back to UX, UI, and this obsession that I have with product. If you present things in a way, because even like the most hardcore Hyperliquid user, he doesn't want to like look at the matching engine and the risk engine. He just wants to go on Hyperliquid. There's liquidity, things work well. You click a button, it gets filled, and that's it. And sometimes there was mistakes, right? Like there was that Pepe Wick. I think it was like a year and a half ago or something. When the Oracle didn't update correctly and like liquidated a trader who was actually a friend of mine, who was super long. And recently there was that issue that they had with what was it called? What was the token? Jelly Belly?
Jelly, yeah.
So you fix these things, right? But in general, they just found product market fit for the users. That's every founder's dream, right? It's finding product market fit for an addressable market.
We talked before at the beginning of this conversation about Revolut and its founder, Nick Storonsky, that you like a lot. Nick says you need to know who you're building for. Can you explain why the Revolut example is very relevant to crypto?
I think Nick understood well that mobile-first experiences are important to our generation and the younger generation. And it simply goes around building an experience that people enjoy and making things and solving for problems, right? Like people travel a lot today. You need multi-currency accounts. You need to be able to send money to your friends quickly. All of the things that his target audience does on a regular basis, Revolut made easy to do. And then they just built a great design around it, and people love it.
I think they say 10 times better, 10 times cheaper, 10 times faster, something like that.
Yeah.
How do we replicate the Hyperliquid and Jupiter success in other aspects of crypto than perps and speculation?
That's what I'm trying to do. That's what Sophon's trying to do. It's slightly different because, and I think it's harder, to be honest with you, because take Jupiter or Hyperliquid. They are solving for an existing problem. So the problem is you want to trade on chain. You have speculators, you have traders. So and you know who they are. So let's build the best application for them. We're at the other end of the curve where I'm trying to get more people to use crypto. I'm trying to grow this pie. And this is a green field, right? There are no rules in this space. For the hyperliquid stuff, you know the rules. You have to have a good matching engine, a good UI. It has to be fast, snappy, good liquidity, and rewards, right? Like the Vault system. But we're at the other end. So you're trying to solve for people who don't know that they want it yet, right? And that's a big challenge, but I think that's one where we're well positioned to at least try to succeed. Yeah, my dream is really to start merging crypto with everyday consumers' lives and to build something, and we can start talking about it, but the sort of Trojan horse that we use is this data component and zkTLS to do it. But to merge both of those things together where then crypto becomes part of people's everyday lives. It's already started with payments, right? Actually, I've seen 2 interviews recently, which I thought were really bullish for us, for our space. One was from the chief product officer of OpenAI, and the other was from the CEO of Visa. And both of them were talking about how they're positioning their businesses to leverage AI agentic systems. This is now going to become a big reality, right? We had AI agents, tokens
in coins
last year, which is fine. But there is a reality behind this where you're going to have these incredibly complex agentic systems that are going to trade with one another, do all sorts of things with one another, and building on blockchains is a great place to do that. And so more and more, I think you're going to have companies like Sophon who are going to be trying to blend these things in to everyday consumers' life.
You're the co-founder and CEO of Sophon. What is Sophon, if you had to explain it to your mom?
Sophon is onboarding the next generation of crypto users. It's a place where people will visit on a regular basis to monetize their data, earn rewards, earn loyalty, social verification, social validation. That's maybe the shortest way I would say it. And maybe a place for developers to experiment.
If you have to think about an application that a lot of people use in the non-crypto world, that does something similar to what you guys are trying to do for normal people to understand.
Yeah.
Right. For example, I had Yevgeny from Wintermute, right? I asked him, what is market making?
Yeah.
Explain to your mom. He said, it's a kiosk. And then he started to give an example about kiosks, right?
That's a good way of thinking about it, actually, for market making.
How do you think about Sophon for a non-crypto person at all? If you have to explain and give hey, look, this is kind of similar to this thing that you're doing now, but much better.
I think it's a marketplace for data. That's maybe the shortest way of explaining it.
Why does my sister, because maybe our parents is less relevant, as we said before, my sister, she owns some Bitcoin, some ETH. She owned some Luna because of me. Sorry, sister. Why does she need, or why should she care about a marketplace for data?
So your sister, she has tech habits, right? She might have a Whoop band. Maybe she has a Spotify account. Maybe she has a Ticketmaster account. Maybe she plays chess.com. There's various things. What's for sure is that what she's doing is generating data, right? On a regular basis. She's using technology on a regular basis, and that generates data on a regular basis. This is true for 99% of people who lived in a developed market between the ages of 12 and 15. Okay? Now, who profits from this data? It's the company that she's generating the data on, and to some extent, a company that's buying aggregated versions of this data to then target people with marketing services, that sort of thing. Does your sister profit from any of this? No. When you visit a website, websites have cookies to track you, right? But only on the particular website that you're on. What if you could have a unique, one-stop shop profile for all of your data? And that's what Sophon is doing with our Sophon account and our Sophon Data Hub. You log into the account, or your sister would log into the account with her Gmail or her passkey, right? So super easy. It looks and feels like something that she already does with her other tech habits. And then she can share all sorts of data points from the applications that she's using regularly. And so then we've created a unique profile for your sister and all of her data habits, let's say. If you do that with 100,000 people, you start to have extremely complex visualizations from a data perspective of these person's habits, what they like to do, where they spend their money, that sort of thing. If you give this from an enterprise perspective to marketers, to companies, to Coca-Cola, a clothing company, On, for instance, that's worth a lot of money because you have very, very detailed versions of what people are. And typically these companies, when they have a marketing budget, people spend a lot on marketing today. Who are they spending it on? They're paying Meta maybe for reach. They're paying a TikTok influencer, an Instagram influencer. But what if actually the money went, or part of that money went straight to your sister, where she was actually getting rewarded for the habits that she already has? And I think this is the kind of revolution that we're going to see between the use of zkTLS, which is a technology that is available for everyone that Sophon uses a lot, and crypto. And that's what I'm building.
Why would she receive money? Because the model today is, all these horrible Web2 companies are using my data against me. I don't want to share my data.
Yeah.
And even now you're telling me, I can receive money for sharing my data. I don't trust you.
What if I told you that the way that you share your data is private? It's insured by zk proofs. So I'm actually not really divulging personal information about you. It's just people can query, okay, who plays chess.com, orders from Lululemon, and buys tickets to Taylor Swift concert. Oh, it's your sister. Oh, wow. She sounds like the perfect person for this campaign that we're doing. And instead of paying the influencer for this campaign, I can drive rewards to your sister immediately and attract her to this campaign that we're doing. It's rewiring the way, if you think about how advertising spend worked before Meta, before Facebook, and after. And then now, again, it's changed with the way people pay influencers. Like most fashion companies, they don't pay Vogue or Vanity Fair anymore. They're paying some girl with 200,000 followers on Instagram to wear their stuff, or a hotel will pay for your trip, right? So then other people look at it after, but that's just one person profiting from it. But if everybody can share into this pie, there's a huge amount of advertising that money that wants to understand their customers better. And if you make the customer enjoy those rewards as well, it becomes much more sticky to the brand.
How do you change the mind of these customers? What's the one or two things you can do to say, hey guys, try and you'll make money? Because they probably don't believe it in the beginning.
I think if you give, it's like a carrot on the stick exercise. If you give people an opportunity to continue doing what they're already doing, but reaping rewards from it, they will try. There's some ideas that I have for some fun activations. So again, maybe we can take your sister as an example, and let's say that she was a Taylor Swift fan. And I get tickets to a Taylor Swift concert, which usually go for like massive multiples online, right? They sell out immediately, they get bought, that sort of thing. And through the data sharing, I know that I'm only going to give them to massive Taylor Swift fans, because your sister can verify her Ticketmaster history, and I can see that she loves Taylor Swift, or through her Spotify listening history, for instance. Your sister will sign up to Sophon just to try and get a ticket for free, right? And 100,000 other listeners of Taylor Swift will do the same. And then once that they experience how they can earn rewards, how their loyalty works. I mean, just from a ticketing perspective, we actually just, we haven't announced this publicly, but I'm happy to do it here. We acquired a ticketing company recently at Sophon to do exactly this. I mean, you can solve for fandom, let's say, where only the proper fans get tickets to the concert or the event that usually sells out immediately or it gets botted. And again, that's attractive for people like your sister.
Sophon is a Ethereum layer 2.
Yeah.
Do we really need another layer 2?
There's two arguments. People think that either you need thousands of them, the same way you have thousands of websites. Just think about it as a network, or you don't. I think we're kind of in the middle. I think you need more of people like Sophon, people like Abstract, people like even Base to some extent, who are trying to create new paradigms. What you don't need is another just general execution layer that, you know, oh yeah, you can do your DEX and your swaps faster here than you could before. That's not interesting. As a founder, I cannot design all of the applications that will be on Sophon, right? Like I can't. I don't have the creativity or the crazy consciousness to do this, right? It's the same thing everywhere else. What you need to do is to create an environment that people come and experiment on, just like Nick does with Revolut. He's not sitting down and like coming up with 30 different concepts, right? Nobody can do this on their own. He's taking many teams and letting them experiment. And sometimes the experiment actually really works and you get a breakout moment. And one thing I can tell you for sure is from a crypto perspective, it's one or two applications which carry the chain. So, you know, Pump Fund for Solana is a great example, right? It was there, it brought all of the attention, it made all of the success. And you need to be able to be building an environment where builders will come and experiment. So the data hub that we're building, where end consumers will share all sorts of data, I call it social oracle. It's a completely new paradigm in the crypto space. We don't have verified, aggregated social data that you can query on chain. This doesn't exist, but now it will. And if you allow developers to build on top of this, and you make an environment where it's a green field and they can experiment as much as possible, you will have someone who will come up with a crazy concept. So I have concepts like the ticketing, you know, fandom, loyalty, things like this that I'm already subsidizing. But I think that the big breakthrough will come from something that we don't expect. And as a founder, you want to be putting people in that position.
You said Sophon is a product-led company,
Yeah.
not an engineer-led company. What does that mean?
Well, it's it means it's the product team that the company is designed around the product team. The engineering team does, or basically serves the product team, because you need people to build stuff, so they're implementing things. But it's around the product, and it's around the product because I have to know my customer, and my customer is someone who doesn't use crypto before. So they need to be presented with something that looks and feels like what they're used to. And that comes from product. That doesn't come from the engineering.
Obviously, you're not doing that alone, right? You have a team, 25 people, you said.
Yeah.
There's a pretty famous anonymous guy, part of the team, called
Yeah.
Pento.
That's right.
How did you manage to get him on board?
It was pretty straightforward, to be honest. Sophon was born through an incubation from Beam, previously called Merit Circle, one of the largest gaming or entertainment DAOs in the space. Merit Circle was, and Beam is also an SDK for those games to work. And Pento has always been their advisor and like a big supporter. And when we started Sophon, Mark from Merit Circle, from Beam, helped incubate us. You know, he's a very, very big contributor to the success of Sophon. And Pentoshi was interested, and that's it. That's all it was, really.
How does a project like Sophon enable crypto to go from zero-sum games
Yeah,
that the industry is currently stuck in
yeah. This PvP stuff.
to positive-sum games that are needed to expand our footprint and grow the pie?
Yeah. It's like we were saying earlier, the concepts that I'm trying to solve for, or that I want to build, it's around rewarding people individually. So if everybody can come, use applications on Sophon, share their data, use applications in the ticketing space, play games. I mean, we have some incredible games that are going to be launching on Sophon where you earn rewards from the games. They're actually advertisers advertising in the games, which is pretty exciting, to be honest. You're going to see more and more of this in-game advertisement happening over the next few years. Those are all things where every individual who's using it can win. You're not in a paradigm where you must lose for me to win. And so everything we do is kind of built around those mechanics.
We don't like too much to talk about technical stuff here, but there's one thing we need to talk about that you mentioned a few times already. Mm-hmm. It's called zkTLS.
Yes, sir.
I came here in an Uber.
Yeah.
Maybe you too. I'm not sure.
I did.
You did. Perfect. What is zkTLS? Explain to your Uber driver.
zkTLS is an invisible technology that verifiably proves the data that you generate on a blockchain. So I could actually prove anonymously, or conserving your privacy, your Uber trip on a blockchain. It's a web proof.
Okay, I'm your Uber driver. I'm like, kind of understand what you're meaning, but not really. So I ask you, why is zkTLS a game changer?
zkTLS is a massive Trojan horse for crypto and consumer, because people are generating data every single day through all of the habits that they're doing, right? And people, they don't want to learn new things or difficult things or have these like crazy complicated, I log into my MetaMask, I have my seed phrase, I write it down, I put it under my pillow. All of that is too complicated. Because zkTLS allows you to prove different forms of data on chain and then do things with that data, you can attract all sorts of people simply based off of what they're doing already. So you're not asking them to do something new. A lot of crypto like the way a lot of crypto products have been built is you're telling people, oh, you should use crypto because it's better for you. You should change what you're doing. Stop banking. Use crypto instead. Stop doing this. Do that instead. And it worked for a few % of people, and that's the current users we have. But most people are going to be like, oh, I don't want to learn. I don't trust, blah, blah, blah. If you tell someone, hey, keep doing what you're already doing and just log in with this and XYZ is going to happen, it's a much easier customer onboarding phase. And again, we're at a stage where we've onboarded all the early adopters, all the kind of like techie people, everybody who wants to learn. So how are you going to get the next wave of people? It has to be through making the onboarding easier and through leveraging what they're already doing.
A project that has been doing that amazingly well. Kaito.
Yeah.
Hey, just connect to your X account.
Easy.
Done.
No, but it's true.
Yeah.
Kaito have done a very good job. There's, I'll give a shout out to some of the other companies in the zkTLS space, like Opacity, like Reclaim. They're doing a great job at this. At kind of making the whole crypto part invisible, leveraging what people are already doing, and that's attractive. And I think it's I can't remember if it's Reclaim or Opacity, but one of them is actually like really trending high in the App Store because people just like, and it's easy to use.
You mentioned ticketing before.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's other examples, or maybe there's one even better. Give me one real life example or application used by the masses that zkTLS could improve by a factor of 10 times, enabling a potential completely new use case other than perps and speculation. Because you need this 10-time improvement for people to change their habits.
You do. Conceptually, I think the way that people are using things on a regular basis, all of this data is being generated, but they're not making anything from it. Needs to change or will change because the use of zkTLS in crypto allows this. Whether it's any habit that you have, but you're basically monetizing your attention now. Before, you're not making anything from it. You're not making anything from all of this data that you generate, but it's worth so much. It's the most important soft commodity of the 21st century. In general, I think that anything that pertains to an emotional attachment will have a lot of attractiveness from users. So ticketing is a good one because whether it's sports, music, theater, whatever, people love loyalty. People love when you're a fan of something, you will spend a lot of money around it, right? When you love something and you have a loyalty element to it, if you can start rewarding people in a more fair way, proving this loyalty, having this social verification, things like leaderboards, seasons. We know this in the gaming space, right? Like people love to get ranked for things. And zkTLS enables you to do all of these things, but in an aggregated way across, you could build a profile that shows all of the different achievements, badges, that sort of thing. And if you can, because you want to stay out of the speculative element, right? You don't want to have these PvP exercises. So if you build around something where everybody using it is winning, then you have a clear paradigm shift.
So I'm trying to be very practical. I watch Netflix sometimes.
Yeah.
I listen to Spotify a lot.
Yeah.
I watch YouTube a lot.
Yeah.
Can I make money while watching YouTube videos? Can you get the data from these big providers like YouTube?
You can. YouTube, you could maybe, you could scan your YouTube history, your viewing history, for instance. You could actually connect your Revolut account as well, or your normal bank account, and just share what you've been, it's anonymous, right? But you could share what you've been spending your money on. And you could then understand much better what the behaviors of people are, what their preferences are, and then market things to them directly. I think there's a lot of things that are going to be built around this Trojan horse. But that's not all that Sophon is 100% focused on as well. There's a number of games that are building with us. And when we build with games, we really want to be focused on games that are built by Web2 companies or by traditional mobile gaming companies, not necessarily a crypto game that, we have some crypto games that are going to be launching actually, but those are very, very much for crypto native users. But what you really do want if you're going to grow the pie is to have games that are already on the mobile, on like app stores, right? So the largest game that we have that'll be launching with us, Trial Extreme, they've done hundreds of millions of downloads. They have been on the Apple Store and the Google Play Store for years. And the new version that they have, which is coming out soon, integrates crypto in the back end, right? Through payments, through loyalty. There might be an element of advertising in the game as well. And this is just a fun game that already has millions of fans. I think it's like 2 million monthly active users or something. I mean, it's crazy numbers. And just to put this on-chain or have an on-chain element, I think once that starts to be successful, you will have a lot of mobile games that will start to pivot to integrating crypto into their backends as well. You know, there is this meme that, crypto gaming is dead, like it's never going to work. I completely understand it, but I think it just hasn't been executed in the right way.
It was a massive narrative for VCs, right? Crypto gaming, social fi, and AI.
It was too early. Play to earn executed well in a way that's fun is brilliant. I mean, do you game, or were you a gamer before when you were younger?
I gamed a bit, but I got so addicted that I stopped directly. I have a very addictive personality.
What did you play?
I was playing this game called, I think it was called O Game.
Okay.
Which was, it was on the computer, right? Yeah. Like, I don't know, 15 years ago. And you had these planets. Yeah. Like you could colonize other planets, right? Yeah. But the whole game was also happening while you were not on the computer. So I was literally starting in the morning at 7 a.m. before going to school. I was in secondary school. Probably I was like, I don't know, 13, 14, whatever. Play quickly in the morning, make sure I'm not attacked, go to school, go back home for lunch quick, check if I'm not attacked.
Always online.
And then basically like it's always happening while, I mean, maybe now it's very common, right? But back then it was kind of like new thing, like fuck, like you can get attacked while you're in an exam or whatever, right? Test, and you're like, fuck, always. So like 3 times a day, I was like always going like morning, lunch, evening, quickly going back home. I was like, man, this is making me too crazy. Yeah. Then I would play some, I would play obviously PlayStation, but I would do more sports game. Yeah. But I was so competitive that I was smashing remote controls, right? Okay. And I was like, man, I need to calm the fuck down. So like, this is not good for me. I need to do more sport. And I was doing a lot of sport. I was like, I'll go and spend my energy in sport, tennis, football, gym,
everything,
volleyball, badminton. I did everything. Yeah. Judo. I also smashed everything, ligaments, knees, shoulders.
You look like you're in good shape though.
I just do gym because it's the thing that I can do at any time, and I can also be careful to not like destroy everything, but like running. I did some paddle a few months ago, and I was like, I know if I'm going there, I'm gonna hurt myself because I'm 200% right. And then boom,
smash the racket.
I smashed the No, I would not smash the racket. I never smashed the racket, but I tore my ankle directly right after. Yeah,
you want to win?
I was and I was playing with a girl with me. Yeah. A girl who I like, and I wanted to show her that we're gonna win together.
Yeah, I think
so. I just fucking went crazy, and like, no, I was not. Okay. Not, but I basically just running around until I tore my ligament. Classic me, right? So I do gym because I know this is less likely to happen.
Makes sense. But you see, on the gaming tangent, I asked you if you played video games because all of these video games that we played when we were kids, but that still exist now, they have marketplaces. And everything is synthetic, but doing the play to earn stuff, doing the crypto gaming stuff correctly, those marketplaces become alive. I was a big World of Warcraft player when I was a kid, like Vitalik was actually. You know, Vitalik started Ethereum because of World of Warcraft.
I know that.
Because some item in the game got stolen from him or something, and he was pissed, and he's like, oh yeah, blockchains could solve this. But in World of Warcraft, you had an auction house, and there was a full economy in the game that existed, but it was completely synthetic. But if you could make this economy real with tokenization, with blockchains, things like this, all of a sudden, people could make a living by farming stuff in the game. And I know it sounds far-fetched, but I'm convinced that that paradigm shift is going to happen in the next few years.
Sophon was the largest node sale ever done by a blockchain. Yeah. 21,000 ETH, $60 million.
At the time.
I would get back there.
Come on.
ETH massively pumping today and yesterday, like 20-25%.
Crazy. Yeah, I think it's a big short squeeze. But yeah, massive.
Let's be more optimistic now. You said you're optimistic.
Damn, that is optimistic, man. Price is going up. I'm happy.
And this was $60 million just a few months after starting the project,
Yes,
which is crazy.
it is actually.
There are many founders struggling to raise even 1% of that.
Yeah.
How did you pull this off?
It was great timing, I think. You know, I had left zkSync. When I left zkSync, I wrote a post on Twitter about it, which I think was viewed 1.2 million times, which is insane, which is fucking crazy, right? And I announced that I was building Sophon, and right after that, we announced the seed round that we had done with Sophon. So we raised $10 million. And that caught a lot of people off guard. They're like, who's this guy? What's Sophon? What are they building? And everybody was very intrigued. And we were very mysterious, right? We didn't reveal too much information.
I remember the tweets, actually. Very mysterious.
Yeah. Pento, she helped us grow our community as well. So everything looked very good. The community was excited. They didn't really know what it was, but they knew it was something new. They knew it was something exciting, and they knew that the people involved were good at this. And then we saw Aether, one of our core partners. They did a massive note sale too.
20,000 ETH. So 1,000 ETH less from what I read.
No, they actually raised more than us, but they're not a blockchain, right? They're a protocol. But they raised I think it was 40,000 ETH. Insane. So I think it was 100 mil plus at the time. So crazy. And we're super close to that team. You know, Aether's deployed on Sophon. They do a lot of transactions there. We consider them a core partner. And we thought, okay, this is an incredible way of raising money because you can raise a huge amount, not directly from VCs, which now upsets community a bit, but you can raise directly from the community. And if you're successful in doing it, you've basically formed part of your early community before the project launches. Because you have people who are basically long your token. So just to be clear, we raised 21,000 ETH for 20% of total token supply. So we essentially sold 20% of the company for that, over its emissions over 3 years. So that means people are taking their money and they're betting on Sophon in the long term before it comes out. So if you're successful in doing this, you've built an incredible community of retail people right off the bat. That's massively valuable, right? And how did we do it? I guess it was good timing. And then it's just telling a story, right? And as we were getting a lot of pre-commitments, more and more people were excited. And then I remember I was in Dubai for token, and I would tell people, we've got 30 million pre-committed from these different investor groups or some funds who wanted to add more money. And then I would see them a week later. I said, now it's 40 million. But people are like, well, fuck, this guy got another 10 mil. This is insane. And by the time we did the public sale, it was up to 60, 65.
What the hell do you do with $60 million?
You use it to build an incredible team. You use it to make really good partnerships. To be honest, we farmed some of it. We tried to seed liquidity for protocols on Sophon. So just to generally support the ecosystem and have a great runway. Some projects they do another round, but the problem is that when you do another round, you're selling more of your companies to VCs, and seed round is fine. But if you're doing a second round or a third round, it's a lot of the company that then is going to venture capital firms and less for the community. And people know this, right? It upsets them. Whereas for us, we can say, it's 20% of the company, but it's going to retail buyers. Everybody's happy, everybody's winning, right? No, that's pretty much it.
How do you measure success for Sophon?
Product market fit. I thought about it the other day. What would make me, because I care a lot about Sophon, right? And it brings me a lot of stress, a lot of worries. Are we doing the right thing? Is it we're going in the right direction? Will the community be happy? Will this, will that? And I thought, okay, well, what will make me stop being worried or kind of stop having this founder stress? And it's just purely finding product market fit. And that's why at the beginning, Sophon was purely going to be a gaming or entertainment chain. But then I realized we need to do something that's more unique, that's more different, in order to set ourselves completely aside from either competitors or just the crypto space in general, right? Like, let's make us special. And that's where this whole zkTLS and Data Hub idea came, and we developed it. I think, that's what we're betting on now, is to be an incredible company that helps people monetize their data, that builds around this new primitive, creates this new paradigm, and that working, finding product market fit there is success.
And it's working already? Or was the day you can look back and say, that's it, like we've made it, at least for this first big milestone?
So these products a lot of the products are being rolled out at the end of this month when we TGE. So this is the month of May. And progressively, the Data Hub will be built out. It will take time to become, it's a product in itself. Like, it takes time to grow, to become more and more appealing. I told my team, if next year or even the year after, people look back and say, wow, crypto changed, or there's way more people using crypto or in a different way, and Sophon in particular was responsible for catalyzing this, that's success. I will be really, 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 really happy. If we can say that the Sophon team helped change the way that consumers work with crypto, got people excited about crypto again, the way they were a few years ago, that's success. Because think about it, like 2021, you had Bored Apes. Some people thought they were cringe, things like this, but whether you like it or not, or that whole NFT boom, that was the moment where crypto was the closest to the consumer ever.
You said NFTs are the closest thing to crypto consumer that we've ever had so far.
Yeah, I think that's where we've done. And look at this guy.
There's a question on that, because you mentioned before abstract, right? Yeah. We have a Pudgy penguin on the table. Tell me more about what you think of Lucanet's Pudgy penguins abstract, because you're in the consumer game, right? And there too.
For sure. And, they're also building on the ZK stack. So we're neighbors. They focus a lot more on streaming. That's their sort of go-to-market, looking at how younger generations stream a lot, follow streamers, things like this, and how streamers can monetize. Again, it's all about monetizing your attention, things like this, right? Mm-hmm. I think they're doing a great job. It's amazing to have, some people come to me and they're like, oh, abstract is a competitor. Actually, I don't think so at all. I think we're building in the same direction. We're actually helping each other out in a way, because we both have the same mission, right? To get consumers on chain. Abstract is one thing. Pudgy is slightly different, right? They go together, I guess, now with Luca, but it's still considered a different project. Pudgy is one of the most successful NFT projects. Guys like this, little furry stuffed toys that you can get in Walmart, or I think they were selling them on Amazon before. That's a great way to get people excited about a product that all of a sudden has at some point a crypto element to it. Some IP, things like this. And I think Luca was a very good founder for this sort of thing. I think we're very similar in a way. He also, when you interviewed him, I think a few months ago, he also understands crypto very well, but also how consumers think. I think he's also very observant, and he kind of gets how people use tech, how people interact with brands, how the emotional bond that you have with a product matters. And he built a company around that. I think they've done a great job.
I asked you before, how do you measure success for Sophon? I'm going to ask, how do you measure success for yourself?
Professionally, or like as a man?
Life-wise.
Me, it's just being with my family. Having a family, being with my family, being with my friends, being able to help people around me, having something that I do professionally that it satisfies me. So in that case, it's Sophon. Doing sports that satisfy me. I started playing golf recently, which has become a new obsession. So kind of like pursuing things constantly that are satisfying your curiosity. That's it. And just lowering the stress levels, I guess, that you have. Because, all the founders will tell you the same thing. You ebb and flow between euphoria and despair. It's like you're either, holy shit, like, I'm king of the world. This is it. Or you're like, oh my God, fuck, we fucked up. We got to do something differently. This doesn't work. That doesn't work. This team's not doing what I told them to do. And, you get used to it. You go back and forth. And a lot of founders complain about it, myself included sometimes. But actually, I wouldn't be doing anything else. It's the most exciting way to live, in my opinion.
How do you deal with stress?
I go to the gym, I run. That's usually a pretty good way to deal with it. I talk about it as well. Talk about it with my wife. She's great counsel. And sometimes I scream in a pillow if I can't take it anymore.
Better to scream at the pillow than on your wife, obviously.
No, but in general, I would say I'm a pretty calm, pretty stable founder, and I don't show my team my stress. It's important that their leader is calm and composed. And in the end, crypto, you get in a lot of stressful situations with markets, things like this. In the end, everything is okay. Most of the time, there's a reversion to the mean. When the market crashed after Trump tariffs 6 weeks ago, I had my weekly call with my team and I said, why don't we spend the first 20 minutes talking about the market? And I gave them my interpretation of what was going on. I reassured them. And 6 weeks later, which is not a long time, right? We're back at levels we were before this happened, right?
We're so back.
Dude, we're so back.
And you were not levered on perps.
Exactly.
So
I was not levered on perps. Safe.
Don't use perps. It's stupid.
Were you levered on perps last week?
No. I haven't done this shit since March 2020, where I lost all my crypto levered 2 or 3x on Bitcoin and ETH. And I realized there is a flush once a year, twice a year, where no matter how safe you think you are, you're gonna get fucked. So it's not worth it.
Yeah, it isn't.
Not worth it. Doesn't make any sense. Just don't do it. Crypto is I think Bitcoin is 70 vol asset. So 60 vol asset, and the other one's more. You already have leverage without having leverage. You don't need it.
Yeah.
Build something, do something useful. Don't gamble.
Yeah.
It's so stupid, but we'll go through that. Thank you so much, Seb.
Thanks.
For doing this and for giving us some hope that we might one day have something more than speculation, store of value and cross-border remittances coming out of the crypto industry.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think, especially with the regulatory regime changing in the US now, people can launch tokens, they can launch companies, they feel safer building at home. I think a lot of cool stuff is going to happen next few years.
We need more concrete use cases that onboard the non-crypto crowds, and hopefully Sophon is one of the answers.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.